D School, there were people like David Kelly, who was heading the D School, and the first book on design and this concept has been very useful in changing the strategies of many companies, including Infosys in India and many companies in Silicon Valley that my son keeps talking to me from Silicon Valley every day. Now, what is this design thinking? All the knowledge that you have, all the experience, all the ways and means of thinking that you were doing earlier, but post-COVID is going to be slightly different. The previous experience and thinking may be helpful in a way, but we need to come out with new strategies and new ways of working in the post-economy, post-COVID economy. Now, what are the new strategies and new ways is specific to all companies, and their CEOs only would know, or their managers would know. But one thing is very common when you talk of design thinking, it is about breaking the organization into its building blocks. Like human body is made up of cells, DNA, RNA. Every organization is made up of its building blocks. I am not talking of departments. It's not purchase department, marketing department, production department, and so on. These are the conveniences which we have made for organizational functioning. But at the back of it, there are certain parameters on which the organization runs. Let us call them as building blocks of an organization. Now, can you identify those building blocks and look at the relationships that exist before COVID? What is the way those building blocks are networked? Post-COVID, how I should redesign them? If we look at a kaleidoscope, for example, in the childhood, we used to prepare a kaleidoscope with broken pieces of glass and put some broken bangles in that and turn this way and that way. We used to see different colors and different designs. Similarly, the organizations cannot think of having much of permanence to their strategies, permanence to their customers, permanence to their relations. They are not going to be the same way it was before. It is necessary for us to redesign, and redesign very fast, because the post economy has just arrived us, and there's nothing like a long-term post-COVID economy. It's going to be, COVID is going to be there in any way. It's not going to go. As per a World Health Organization, we have to learn to live with COVID, and the organizations have to learn to live with COVID and many other things to come. Therefore, can you divide your organization into its building blocks, mix and match like a remix song? Can you sing a new song every time by making a mix and match of the basic building blocks? This is the way design thinkers talk about it: the creativity of the people, the experience of people, the financial strength of the organization, the brand value of the organization. A company like ITC, for example, has got tremendous brand value and so on. So therefore, you make a design of a mix of all this, put them together and see how it works. Next month is not going to work. Next quarter is not going to work. You again consult your design thinking team. Let there be a design thinking team in the organization. Let us call design thinking expert, the best design thinking experts in India. Let us call them. Let us have seminars on design thinking and induce a culture of design thinking in the organization. And that is the only way we are going to take forward month after month, quarter after quarter, year after year. It's not going to, permanence is not there. The solace, the comfort zone is no more there. Because the way we are thinking, our customers are also thinking much ahead of us. Our suppliers are thinking much ahead of us. Our banks are desperately thinking much ahead of us. So with all this together, if you look at, definitely your strategies which are ever changing. There's nothing like budget. I mean, you can't say that I've made my annual budget and I would go according to my budget and hire and fire the people to achieve the budget targets. The budgets are going to be there, but budgets are going to be different now. You got to start with a zero-based budget. There's nothing of previous. You just everything afresh now, and so on. So the design thinking is going to be in, and I would like the participants to put their minds about design thinking. I would like to just give an example of how in 1920, when the similar thing has happened, and when in 1930, a great famine struck the world, more acutely in the Europe, what they did. Maybe we have some lessons to draw from that. So moving from design thinking, I would like to give an example of how design thinking was implemented in America, later on adopted by all countries, even today. There was an economist called Irving Fisher, IVRING-FISHER, Fisher, because they're English names, so I need to spell them. Make more money, invest less and make more. Here where 1 + 1 is equal to 3 + delta or whatever it is. And on the other, this is on left hand side, and on the right hand side you have production, you have quality, and you have price for that product. So Fisher tried to equate these parameters and develop a model. Now I'll come to left hand side, LHS. Money is designated with M. M is equal to, we have so many kinds of money, M1, M2, M3, M4, and so on. The finance people would know, and financial experts would know. M is the money which is invested into the organization, which has taken different shapes of machines, men, materials, management, and so on, but everything is translatable into rupees and dollars. It's all money ultimately. Now this money has got some properties. Money has got the first property of a quantity, Q. Money has got a property of velocity, V. Money has got a property of time value of money, which is T. What Fisher did was, he picked up money and its velocity, M into V. He had put it on the left side, and on the right side, he has taken quantity, Q, and price. So MV is equal to PQ. This is the formula he gave, and MV is equal to PQ applies to a company, a department, a country, an economy. When these variables are in equilibrium, you are doing okay. If there is any disequilibrium, there are some peers and favors which you will find in the organization. So ME is equal to PQ is what now we need to rethink about it. Maybe a new formula would have to be evolved from the design thinking expertise, and that's how the post-COVID economy is going to thrive. Now, how the customers are going to be in post-COVID. Earlier, we were used to have a feel factor, a relationship, a value system, which we used to have, based on which we defined marketing. Much earlier, of course, it was all dealers of Birlas and dealers of Singanias, dealers of Thapards, which used to be there. But later on, thanks to Bhadrachalam Paperboard and ITC, who have professionalized the industry, and yet we have come a long way in running the marketing based on certain predetermined ways and means. Now, if those predetermined ways and means are fluid, if those are going to take a new shape every day in the digital economy, we would have to approach the customers not physically anymore. They may not like it. Even your lorry of material which is going, he would like to sanitize. He would pass it through a sanitization chamber, and he would sanitize your lorry driver. Then only he will accept the material. And he would also see how your material is desanitized to face the, so that's how the thinking of the customers going to be. Therefore, a lot of marketing would have to be on digital mode. By digital mode, using artificial intelligence or AI and AR, we need to come out with certain models where the customer experience is delivered to him digitally before the lorry reaches to the customer's factory. So that's how the new models of marketing would have to be evolved, and customers cannot be thought of anymore having any kind of loyalty. If loyalty is there, it's a blessing. But I'm sure you cannot expect, when the whole world is digital, you cannot expect to have loyalty or feel factor. The only thing that you need to survive upon is your quality, is your service,
Christine, you are muted, everybody.
is your delivery of product experience. Even he is okay with your material, he will use it. Unless the shop floor operator reports any problem, he would not take back his orders. He would continue to place orders upon you. And the human relations which we used to have, आओ जी चाय पियो, काका भैया क्या हाल है, लड़की का शादी किया है कि नहीं, कब करोगे, and all that is not going to be there anymore. It's going to be less and less of feel factor and more of facts and figures, digital truths, instead of the traditional relationships and so on, as far as the customers and dealers I'm talking about. Now what the dealers are going to do. Now traditionally there were three main functions a dealer was delivering to us. He gives place value, he gives time value, he gives farm value. Place value, I mean, he is a local expert in a place like Pune or Coimbatore. Therefore, he knows all the local people there. He would be able to give effective service to you. Therefore, you've appointed him as a dealer in Coimbatore. He converts your material sometimes. If you send reels, if you send bigger chunk of material, he would convert it into smaller pieces. He would repack it. Either it is rosin or alum, or it is paper reels or whatever. He would, wherever it is required, not always. The farm value is second thing which the dealer was delivering to the end customers. And of course, the time value. He would stock the material and he would deliver to the customers in time within hours. Whereas coming from far-flung places where the manufacturers are situated is very difficult. Therefore, dealer was giving all these services. And of course, he was also earlier and to an extent now considered to be the financier of the trade. Dealer would finance because he would give credit in the marketplace and he would collect later, and he would be the person because the factory requires working capital, and he would see that your MV is intact, your M and V are intact. Now, how the whole thing is going to be now? When Flipkart and Snapdeal made $1 billion sales in one day on a digital platform. Now, can we derive some lessons for the brick and mortar industry as well? It is impossible to think that the brick and mortar business is going to be brick and mortar in the post-COVID also. It is going to add 10% of modern economy ways, 20%, 30%, and so on as we go along. But we might, 5 years later, we might see a situation where a lot of digital stuff has entered into brick and mortar business as well. This is the time for the people from brick and mortar industry, to visualize the previous day, in the previous session, Sri A.V. Rao Garu talked about the technologies being adopted. That's a fantastic session, and that should be taken forward more and more and really be implemented. It could be IoT, it could be bots, it could be Internet of Things, whatever. But then a lot of technology. In fact, a technology department, technology experts would have to be in the team of the post-COVID business, because they would tell us, they would continuously research and tell us what to do and what not to do. So that is how the dealers are going to be. They are not going to have all these traditional values, services anymore. A lot of it is going to be online, a lot of it going to be digital. If you look at the educational sector, for example, because the paper industry, if you take paper industry, I am from paper industry, therefore a lot of paper is consumed in the educational sector. Now, the whole of education is looking at online models. The Harvard University, MIT have already gone digital. I'm in Osmania University affiliated colleges. Last 3 months, we've been running classes online, examinations online. Everything is no paper at all. I'm not saying that it's going to be a paperless society. No, paper will have demand as long as human civilization exists. In some form or the other, I'm convinced that the paper will have demand. But what is the kind of paper, where and when, is you need to figure out. Similarly, steel and iron. Therefore, educational sector is going digital in a lot of way in the next year or next couple of years. Companies like the TCS have already announced that 2/3 of their staff are going to be working from home. So these are the emerging scenarios. And we should not think that we are a brick and mortar industry anymore. We must slowly, being a brick and mortar in the kitchen, we need to be highly technical in the front. So the whole thing is going to be highly technological thing for servicing the customers and suppliers and banks and other stakeholders. But then in the kitchen, yes, the steel has to be manufactured using machines, using manual labor. Paper has to be manufactured, chemicals and so on. So that is the kitchen part of it. But then large part of business is going to be in the front. The front end has to be absolutely modern. digital and design based. Design, redesign is the only way. Learn, unlearn, and relearn. That's a mantra for every one of us, every of us. Now, I would also like to touch upon, Christina, please stop me when your time is up, but I would be going on. Christina, can you hear me? Yeah. So therefore, how the organizations are going to change. Traditionally, we have triangular organizations. There's a boss at the center, there's a middle, there's a lower and much lower and so on. We have operational level, we have tactical level, we have strategic level where the positions were made. But I would think that a lot of organizations, even in brick and mortar, have started functioning with flat organizations. If it is a software industry, they have started working like circular organizations. So the triangle has become a rectangle has become a circle. Now it's going to be virtual. It is like arrows shooting out from all directions. The circle from the center, arrows. So it's a virtual organization. The front end I'm talking about, the virtual organization. So we need to create those kind of organizations where we tag on to the economy, changing economy, because the way RBI is thinking, the way Government of India is thinking, the way people from industry are thinking, I feel that we need to devise a frontal organization which will continuously monitor and anchor with the changing markets and giving feedback to the kitchen where goods and services are manufactured and priced. So the PQ is going to be there. PQ will adopt all the technologies Mr. A.V. Rao sir was talking about, and MV is going to be all over, and it's all digital, and the marketing included in that. That's how the whole thing is going to work out. I'm also thinking of virtual customers and virtual suppliers. Although like so much of front end I talked about, there is a front end for customer also. There's a front end for supplier also. So his front end and my front end are the ones which are interacting. The human is in the kitchen from customer side, human is in the kitchen, machines are in the kitchen on supplier side also. It is B2B, it is virtual to virtual kind of a thought which is emerging as of now. How far it will be immediately there, I am not sure. It is industry specific. Every industry leader has to think of how he can create the front end organization to interact with the front end organization of your suppliers and customers or other stakeholders. But everybody is going to be digital. Let us agree with that. So therefore, we come to this, and in the economic side, if you see the way RBI is thinking to make the financial strategies, the way Government of India Finance Ministry is thinking, because that has got relevance to the markets, the amount of money which is likely to flow into the economy, because purchasing power has to be there with the customers and other stakeholders, because without much purchasing power, no amount of demand and no amount of supply are going to be sustainable anymore. So how the purchasing power is going to be induced into the markets, RBI is very seriously thinking. As of now, it's by all the estimates, WHO and World Bank have projected for India 1.5% GDP growth, and International Finance Corporation IFC have reported 1.6. Some people talked about zero growth rate for GDP and so on one side. On the other side, government is spending quite a lot, 20 lakh crores. A lot of it is, of course, the accounts transfer only, but then to safeguard the migrant workers, to safeguard the lower sections of the economy, state governments, central governments are definitely going to spend their money because they have to sustain their power also. They're going to spend their monies on social programs. And probably less money would be available to lend to the industry as compared to the social sector. So we have to be prepared how we can sustain the financial angle, the redefined financial angle, and on the other side, our need for increasing the production and increasing the custom sales and market share and so on. So this gap of the financial crunch. Anyway, this year, a lot of people are going to make losses, particularly in the small sector. A lot of people are going to just break even, and very few people make as a little profit, if anything, in the current financial. So therefore, there's not going to be much money with the company, nor going to be much money. All the money which has been taken away by Vijay Mallya's and kind of fellows, it's not going to come in any case. Sorry for my unparliamentary thing which has come in, but then they deserve that. The kind of pressure they have put on the Indian economy, those monies are not going to come in the near future in any case. So Indian banks are sick. Their balance sheets are looking rosy, but if you take out the non-performing assets, they are in minus. Each bank is in minus, including State Bank of India. Therefore, unless RBI supports, they will not be able to sustain. And RBI will support only with a given interest rate, and that much they are not going to recover from the customers because foreign money is available. Foreign institutions will come and offer money at a lesser rates, because in the international markets, the interest rates are linked to LIBOR and they're very, very low, 1.5%, 2% against 10 to 12% in India. So therefore, the Indian banks will not be able to lend and recover and sustain with low returns. Therefore, their strategies are going to be different. But the moral of the story is we should be prepared to live with a financial crunch.
Excuse me, Dr. Barla.
And finally, before I close, I would like to touch upon the human side of the enterprise, not in the factory we all discussed, but the human side of enterprise in the supply chain, the overall value chain, particularly in marketing, because we always deal with human beings. Now, you can't go and physically sit with him and talk. You can't even shake hand with him. So in that kind of a thing, particularly in India, where we build the business based on relationships, so now we have to rediscover our ways and means, employ that kind of people who are used to a new way of working. No lot of rejig is going to happen in any case. So I would like to make it very brief and would like to stop it here, and thank you very much for this patient listening. And my idea was to throw up some sparks for thinking. I have no ready-made solutions, nor I am here to give any solutions. My idea was to create some sparks so that further sparks will go on like a chain reaction and we manage our businesses very well. Thank you very much. Thank you, Christina. It's over to you. Take over.
Thank you, Dr. Barla. Thank you, Dr. Barla. That was a very nice talk. Now we will have Mr. D. Sambasivarao. Take over, sir. Thank you.
Yeah, very good morning to all, and specifically Pradeep sir. Just I would like to introduce myself. I have given a very brief. Sorry, madam. I would like to say about myself first, as a first introduction to the group. First of all, I say my deep gratitude to Pradeep sir, because I remember still when I was waiting, for my final interview at his office. He was the person who took my final interview and joined ITC Bhadrachalam in 1993. Thanks a lot, sir. That was my career start, and I continued till 99. I worked in utilities. My guiding manager was Mr. D.A.N. Verma. Uh, most of you might be knowing. And then I worked with Mr. N.B. Srinivas Rao, who is there right now also, Mr. Ameshwar Rao, all the people, Mr. Achutram. Then 99, I moved out of the group and then joined in Vedanta in their aluminum captive power plant. And last 21 years, I am with the group, and I took various roles. Of course, the power is a big profile in the aluminum sector, because 40% of the or 45% of the production cost goes to the power only. So our power plants are in somehow or some areas, I can say it is bigger than the independent power plants, to the tune of, we say that in one location we have 3,600 megawatt, one location we have 2,000 megawatt. So right now I worked in Tamil Nadu, I worked in Odisha, I worked in of course at corporate office in Delhi with our CEO Power for some time, and then after working with him 2 years, I moved to Punjab. We have 3 into 660, that is 1980 megawatt power plant in Punjab. So right now I'm with this power plant, and but yesterday I got transferred to another location. Now Balco I need to move. So where we have 1700 megawatt with close to 5.5 means 5 lakh tons per annum aluminum production there. So this is my brief journey, sir. And still I say that whatever I have grown in Vedanta, but basis from ITC Bhadrachalam, the way the training module, somebody was talking last week also, we had fantastic training modules and complete training orientation, which 3 months off day in the class, off day in the factory, that helped very lot, sir. So moving to the topic, once again, this topic also, my inspiration is once again from Pradeep sir, which he triggered, the industry, the 1.0, 2.0, then 3.0, then we came to the 4.0 now. So that is the basic theme which I took. Recently, we have implemented the digital projects. So I would like to share, but considering the kind of data we have to keep with us, so I have taken only the generalized data. So I would like to share the presentation. The brief is basically the people are control. Yeah, you can able to hear, sir?
Yeah, now it's fine. In between, you got muted.
Okay, sir. So where with the DCS control systems came in, we have come to a closed controls with a less manpower, and the quality parameters, everything is so fine tuned. And but still the thing is, once again, what the digitalization, what exactly the meaning of the digitalization in this industrial 4.0, what the stage we are going ahead with this is basically the data. So right now with the installation of DCS, we have a lot of data captured and it is being monitored, but not much of analysis is done by taking that. And also this is restricted to the particular mill or particular section. Even within the mill also, I say power plant DCS is a standalone, it runs on its own, and there is a separate monitoring. And then at the same time, paper or any of the smelters or process side also, they have their own DCS, that is a standalone. So as an integration of all the things and giving a common kind of real-time dashboards to the executives, like the site in charge or the mill manager or the corporate team. So that kind of things, it started say last 2 years, but many of the people, they have not taken it forward. So I would like to go ahead with that. Shall I share the presentation, sir?
Yeah, as it fits, or you can go on talking like this.
Yes, yes, please go ahead.
Sir, screen sharing is disabled, ma'am.
Christine, he wants to show a presentation,
Giving,
so
giving,
you have to give him
Giving,
screen
giving.
sharing. Yeah. Yeah.
Is it there?
Yes, ma'am.
Go ahead, sir.
Ma'am, is it visible?
Yes, yes, it's
Yes,
clear.
yes.
Yeah. This is the present system which I explained. Basically, we have the DCS systems, we have the PLC systems, mostly the standalone or connected thing. And if we want to have any data, we don't have this connectivity to the corporate LAN network. And this is the IT OT what we are talking. IT network is different and the OT network is different. So there is no transfer method. What we are doing right now is only mostly through CDs or the pen drives. We take out the data from DCS and then put into our computers and make required formats, sheets, daily reports, whatever is required. So what exactly the present scenario is, it's a standalone. What I explained this subject, this particular slide already, so I am not taking much time on this. So this is the thing where some data from SAP, some data from the DCS, some data, okay, this is with respect to the power plant, which I am showing it, maybe from marketing, different things will come to the top executives, where they have to compile or their technical assistants may compile and then give it. So in that way, it is only always a lag data which you will get it, no, nothing on the real time basis. So moving to the, there are in the digitalization, there are two things. One is the fleet monitoring. Other one is the diagnostic part using the data. This we can consider only right now. People are talking big data in the sense only marketing and other related data only, like the hospitality services and then healthcare. So everybody is talking that only, but not into the industry much. But we do have so much of data. We generate so much of data, and that is all. That also comes and so much of variety. This also we can term it as the big data, and then we can go for the analytics of that. So first step is the fleet monitoring, and fleet monitoring in this particular thing, I'm going bit technical. So basically the DCS will have one data collector, and then we'll connect it to the basically the LAN network through firewalls, and in one central server, or it can be the cloud server also, will be storing all this data. So this is the typical, this is our network. Say, I have removed the names, but this is exactly the Vedanta network. Different power plants where I am seeing these are all our different sites, and these are the servers at one location. All these things are connected, and then these things can be monitored from anywhere, anywhere in the world, literally I say. So because this is connected to the through the internet ultimately. But of course the security issues also addressed. So there are sufficient cyber security tools are incorporated in this to avoid any of data leakage or any cyber attacks to the operating system, because everybody worries for the first thing is the cyber attacks on the operating system. Once we connect it to OT, operating technology, with the IT side, so attack, somebody can attack and uh, disable the control systems which can halt the plant. That's one of the fear always people are having it. But we have right now, with all the available technologies, we can see those situations are not there, and we have come out of all so that kind of thing, so we can go safely this. So this, how it works is basically the data collection it starts with, then we can have the calculations, advanced calculations using the data, whatever the format we would like to have it. And then there can be alarm management. Yeah, certain values are going high, it can give immediately the alarm. And then real-time dashboards, so you can see exactly to guide the CEOs what it is happening. He can interfere at right time. Then the next stage is the prediction. So using this data, okay, what it is happening, we can monitor on real-time basis. But what it is going to happen to the equipment or the plant performance, that also we can do the prediction modeling using this data. Advantage is basically multiple units from many geographical locations can be monitored from central single location. Example, I can say that we have different plants. Similarly, ITC paper division also is having different locations, Kovai, BPL, Bhadrachalam, and we have Triveni. So all these things, the dashboards can come online at a single location. And the advantage of this is even unit to unit, they can see who is doing better, the different parameters. What we have taken further is, if any plant is having any problem, so no need of the downloading the data, sending through email and all. Straight away you can share this data through the systems, and then take the advice from the other locations, whoever is available this particular area expertise. So from site to site without moving, so by sharing the even the DCS screen itself, so we can take the inputs and then resolve our own problems. And we do have the facility, even we want to share it to outside also, any expert, that also is possible. So the advantage is that other than that, we can have automatically alerts generation. Suppose particular machine got tripped, so it can generate a alarm either through mail or a mobile SMS. It can give it to the specified people. It is based on the intensity of the problem. If entire things get stopped, it should go to the mill manager. It will trigger automatically. No need before the shift in charge or before the functional manager calls. This message can go straight away. So that is alarm based system which we had. And then daily reports. So much of time we spend on the daily reports preparation, but the system captures automatically all the process parameters, and whatever the format we give it, if it is a 24 hours average we need, and maximum minimum figures, all the things it can generate and trigger the time whatever we fix it. Midnight 12 o'clock it has to go. You trigger it, it will deliver the reports straight away to the specified users. And as I mentioned, the single location, by sitting at single location, we can take the advice of experts, whoever is there in the different locations and different sites. These are the typical reports, typical dashboards, which the business performance we can see. And this is having the advantage of linking with the SAP also. So many of the things like we do the PM. In SAP, we generate a time-based basically. So monthly PMs, quarterly PMs, or half-yearly PMs. But most of the times we see that certain machines, standby machines, not required. If it is required only based on the running hours, so this also can be triggered. So because running hours can be configured in this particular digital package, and that can give the input to straight away SAP, and only after reaching that many running hours it can trigger a PM. So we can reduce even the that much of work burden and unnecessarily PMs also. So in other way, I can say there is a productivity improvement also in this particular things. And another thing is, this is the typical guidance report. One is just accounting reports or the daily information reports. The second part is basically the guidance report. The guidance report basically to the operator, it will give what is my design and how it is actual operation it is going on. And then the deviation. In that there are two things. One is uncontrollable, other one is the controllable. All the controllables we can build in and give it to the straight away to the operator or the central monitoring team. So they say that this is the controllable deviation loss, and which we can control it. So the action can be taken immediately rather than yesterday somebody will do the performance analysis. These reasons there is a loss and you take the corrective actions today. So already we lost 24 hours. But using this guidance report, then and there itself, the operators can act up. So the moving forward, there are many things, sir, because 20 minutes we cannot cover many. So just I'm briefly explaining a few things, the highlighted points. Then moving forward is the diagnostic through predictive modeling. So how this data being used? Basically, the machine, from machine, lot of data we get it. How we are going to use it? So this is any typical machine failures which we can see here. This is the breakdown point.
Christine, he's got muted.
Yeah, I know. Something. 1 minute. Yeah.
Samsivara, go ahead.
Somewhere we are once again muted.
No, go ahead. Go ahead. Now you're fine.
Okay, sir. So somewhere the potential failure here we can see this is the with latest technologies we can identify, but real failure starts here, and this is not captured by the condition monitoring things. So this can be captured only looking into the operating parameters. Suppose the particular bearing temperature is going to go high, and what are all other parameters going to involve influencing this particular temperature. So it will start continuously monitoring that. So when other parameters are getting changed, it will give you, yeah, this parameter is, this bearing temperature is going to go because the abnormality started in the process in other side. So that kind of indication, that kind of models we can develop, and these are the models which used it. One is the auto regression, multivariate. Of course, this is the too technical, sir. I'm not taking it further, not elaborating this. So basically, we see the parameter to parameter in the process parameters. We see the relation how much it is. So once we feed into this particular modeling, equipment modeling, it will tell you clearly what are all the parameters interlinked, having correlation. So typically we say that in the regression 0.8 is coming, yeah, it is having a good relation. So all those parameters will fix it, and 3 to 6 months data we feed it to the this particular system. Then it will make a perfect modeling. So how the machine behavior. So this is how we do it, sir. So typically model preparations, and then from historical data, what I explained. And then this is how we are from condition based monitoring, we can go. This is APR is basically advanced pattern recognition. So how it is behaving, how the pattern is getting changed, the moment it gets changed, so it is going to indicate. And here we can see this is the prediction window. This is the prediction line. It will, if this is the actual data where the wave we are seeing it, sine wave kind of thing. But the dash what we can see the particular line is the prediction. So it will give you after really, if this is the alarm level, and it will give prediction here itself. This is going to touch this limit. So this window can be used for planning the resources completely. It may be material, it may be the manpower, and we can reduce the downtime and before it breaks also. So this particular system helped us in one of the equipment where we could mobilize before itself, and when the schedule is low, we took the shutdown and then completed that. Otherwise, it could have landed into the unit outage itself. So till date, system we implemented 6 months back, around 3 such kind of incidents we observed and helped avoiding the unit trippings and loss of production. And of course, this is also a typical thing. What I am saying is this is the, like turbine vibration. If it is going up, and these are the contribution factors it will give. Yeah, the probable cause of reason is this much. This is the 70%. This is maybe the 20%. This is the 20% probability of this. So it gives in that way. Then similarly, with respect to our simple thing, I am saying pumping also. Another big thing is the fixed alarm points. What we have. with respect to the full loading. Suppose the paper machine or the boilers or any of the pumps are operating at part load, and we don't know till it reaches, say, motor overcurrent itself. Is the if it is 100 ampere is the limit, till it reaches 100 amperes, it is not going to give any alarm. But if it is running at part load at say 50 amperes only, it is running it, and we don't know exactly the 50 is right or not. Say 50% production we are running it, so we don't know 50 amps is right or not. But it captures the 3 to 6 months data completely. Yeah, this particular flow, instead of 100 cubic meter, 50 cubic meter it is running, and the current is supposed to be this much. It predicts exactly. Any deviation is there. Instead of 50, if it is 53 or 54, whatever we say, we set it 3 amps or 4 amps, give me the alarm differential, predicted value versus actual value. If it is 53 amps, it will give you, even though actual DCS set value is 100. And if it is a 53 also, it will give saying that, yeah, you're running this particular pump or the particular equipment at part load, and this performance is supposed to be this much, and it will give that. And similarly, the pump performance also we can see clearly over the period of time how the erosion is taking place. And those parameters we can predict before itself and ensure that proper impellers or other internals we can plan in advance and procure it, rather than keeping too much of inventory or out of the inventory. We need not land into that. So we know the delivery period, so we know the deterioration, how it is happening continuously. So accordingly, we can plan it, sir. And similarly, we have seen in the boilers area also, boiler tube failures, basically, it is another side I am saying that it is a metallurgical phenomena, where if it is exposed for a long time beyond the controllable temperatures, it is going to fail. So how much time it is exposed, we don't know exactly. So, but through this method, through this particular distillation, it can give completely, yeah, so and so date, so much time, so and so date, so much time. So it can calculate completely, say that, yeah, by this time this exposure is this much, and the tube limit, the particular metallurgical limit allow you, say, 2000 hours only exposure of this temperature, it is likely to fail. So it can predict and give you the alarm saying that, yeah, it reached already. So we can plan for replacement during the, so we need not, sometimes it will withstand for the hydro test pressures, all the things, we don't know, but suddenly it will fail because it is a metallurgical. At the same time, we cannot go for 100% testing also, such kind of huge volume of tubes. So, but through this method, we can predict that. So this is the brief about diagnostics also, sir. So with this, I say that digital is going to play a key role in any of the process, maybe power plant, maybe the process and the paper industry. One is on the real-time monitoring and real-time loss controls, and a fair, I say, very transparent data transfer straight away from the process to the dashboards up to the CEO level, so that nothing is manual error, so nothing is missed in between. So this is very much useful going forward. I say that this is going to be one of the key for the success of the plants. So with this, I thank everybody. So thanks a lot, sir.
Thank you,
Christian can-
Sambasivarao Garu.
Remove the presentation. Yeah. Remove the presentation there.
Yeah, yes, sir.
Yeah.
I
We
would
are
now
back to home screen
request Dr. Barla, there are a few questions for you. Before that, Mr. Harinarayan would like to speak on design thinking. So we'll give him a little time.
No, not much, Christine.
Yeah.
I just wanted to, just to add on to what Dr. Barla was telling. This very, inspiring topic, even for me, and even for ITC Bhadrachalam also adopted this design thinking technology to, sort of the complex problem of how to improve our safety levels much better. Because we have gone through a lot of other methodologies, but still we have some stray cases of near misses and incidents. So now we adopted the model of design thinking, because design thinking is one solution or a methodology which which is suitable or which is apt for solving complex problems. So just to add on what he was saying, apart from the foreign universities, from this year, from this current academic year, CBSE has introduced design thinking to 11th standard curriculum in India also. So it is gaining momentum. Apart from some artificial intelligence and all, CBSE started introduced design thinking in Indian curriculum of 11th standard from this year onwards. Second point I would like to add is, there is a company, startup company in US, Swipe Sense. This company, through their design thinking methodology, about 15 years back, they invented a business invention of wearable dispensers for hand wash, alcohol-based hand wash. It's very handy for the hospital staff, doctors and nurses and other people to carry it as a wearable attachment to their attire, so that it's very easy for them to sanitize their hands. And they went one step further with this Internet of IT technology sensors. It is able to monitor which doctor or which staff or which housekeeping personnel are religiously using this hand sanitizers at what frequency. And there is a dashboard which comes that this department, cardiology department, 70% adherence. In some other pulmonology department, adherence levels are less. But this has come much ahead of time. Some 15 years back, when this has come as a solution through their design thinking model, people have not appreciated. But it was a startup company. But now the relevance it is picked up post COVID scenario. So I am just adding on to what Mr. Barla was telling. Design thinking is going to be a new topic in the post COVID scenario. And if you allow me, I will add just one more point on the digitalization. As Amshara was saying, the ITC also adapted, this remote monitoring of things. So sitting here, I am sitting at my quarter. I can see the PM4 is today. Now it is running at 24.6 TPH at 382 meter speed, and PM1A is running at 22 TPH with 364.9 speed. So it's all very, very helpful in optimizing our lines. How much BCTMP it is drawing or how much tower levels are there. Instead of shifting yard getting panic after the damage is done. So both are very, both are very, very relevant topics. And being a part of ITC, I joined ITC in '95. Some of the newcomers may not be knowing, or some of the oldies may not be knowing. So thanks for this, sir, AV sir, Tulsi sir, for inducting me into the system, and I am also able to contribute now. And Suri, thanks for putting me into the loop of this silvers. Some of the people are not knowing me. I will get into this later. Thank you, Krishna, for your
time. Thank you, Hari. So we have a question, Dr. Barla, from Doda Samaya.
Yes.
Sir, can you please unmute yourself, because yeah, thank you. Would you like to read out the question, or you want me to read?
Yeah,
Can
please
you
read.
read?
Okay. It says, Barla Garu, I agree with changing marketing strategies. As you said, traditional marketing, personal touch with dealers and customers will no space. But I feel for Indian context, still traditional marketing strategies will have a good role with emerging strategies. Just we should not ignore. This is my feel.
Yeah, may I talk, Christina?
Yes, please, sir.
Yeah, Samay Garu, thank you very much. This is a very relevant observation, and your question is very valid, and it is the question of many of us also in the audience. Thank you for this question. Yes, the feel factor, the relationships and the value-based society that we are not going to become digital tomorrow. I'm not saying that, but we must graduate from 10%, 20% to 30% or whatever percentage that you can. The brick and mortar has to adopt the changing economic and technological environment. Otherwise, it will be left out. I'm sure companies like ITC Bhadrachalam, companies like PSPD, I'm sorry, I keep getting ITC Bhadrachalam paper boards, but PSPD now, yes, they're already in the advanced stages. A lot of other companies in Hindustan Levers, in Tisco, they are thinking of the modern technologies, although they are from brick and mortar societies. We will go by inch, but ultimately we have to integrate with the overall changing environment. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Thank you.
Dr. Bala, there's another question from Doda Samaya.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
He says, I feel after COVID, biggest problem is restore of labor to work. Many MSMEs, construction, even agriculture sector will face labor problems. What is the forecast for these? Will be taken care of? How we need support by state and central government on this labor? Will they come back to work to make production and marketing to streamline? Yeah, to streamline the
Yes,
system.
Samay Garu, I think you're very right, and the migrant labor issue is going to be a very big issue. Even in Bhadrachalam also we have this experience in plantations, agriculture, as well as factory also. But the question is, the migrant labor is not going to be so migrant in future. The degree of migration, the degree of movement will change now. Lot of local labor is going to be used. Lot of local labor will be skilled. Like when Bhadrachalam paper board was set up, there was no skilled labor in the local. We have taken the local PSCs, local intermediate 10th class people, and then trained them. That is how I feel the industry is going to train the local people using a mix of available migrant labor. But the migrancy, if I can call it, the degree of migrancy is going to be different in the post-COVID. We have to adopt. I don't think government can do much about it. Government keeps doing, government itself is broke. Government has no money. This year, the deficit finance is going to be more than 4% compared to GDP. Although they are putting brave face, 20 lakh crores, kuch bhi nahi hai usme. There is nothing in that. So they are going to be political and things only, but the industry itself will adopt to the changing scenario by using local laborers and the available migrant, because a lot of migrant laborers have settled down in respective places. Although I know Mr. K.L. Narasimhan had sent us a biodata of a Bihari person who is settled in Jubilee Hills. He's permanently settled. He's purchased a plot also. He wants to construct his house. No more migrant. He is a local labor. Many laborers like that are available to a small percentage, big percentage, and they will be used because they have the skill and the ability to operate at the bottom level. That will be utilized. And the pure migrant labor, which is going to be some 10, 20, 30%, will have to be lived with. We have to create the labor force. It's going to be a big challenge, I know. Thank you very much.
Mr. Barlagaru, see, one of my suggestion, just I want to share with the people, regarding this migrant labor, definitely we cannot avoid. That is my feel. It is definitely required. But the things which has happened during this COVID situation, how this migrant labor treated and they did not give any security. But in future, both the state and central government, whoever is getting the migrant labor to be registered and properly noted and have some security. See, that is one of the concerns. Then you can make the people to secure. That is my suggestion.
Yes, sir. That's absolutely correct, and that's going to be in. Thank you very much for the
Christine,
observation.
I think it's a burning topic, so I would like to make one or two small comments.
Yes, sir. Please go ahead, sir.
You know, the migrant labor problem, we have to first understand why did the migrant labor remigrated or went back to their own places of living or villages or wherever they came from, because they were not well taken care of, you know. Yes, there is a lot of NGOs working, government has also opened these Annadanam kind of places where free food is being given, etc. But generally, by and large, they felt insecure. Both from coronavirus point of view, they were not sure whether they can be well protected from there, and the livelihood point of view. So they went, let's go back to our family. At least we have a family, some agriculture income, we'll be able to survive. So to my mind, the government is doing absolutely wrong decision by saying, if you have gone back to your village, I'll give you Manrega job in your village. How long can you create artificial job like that and keep paying them?
Non-productive.
If you reverse the trend, if you say those who left this particular factory in whatever Bhadrachalam or wherever, get back to work now, we assure you of the safety. The company assures them of their security safety from coronavirus point of view. And if at all any funding is to be given to them, route it through the company. Because that is the only way, because I don't think this large number of workforce can be absorbed in agriculture. When they go back to, they're okay for a time being because government is pumping in a lot of money and what is that, direct benefit transfer and all. So they've got something for 1, 2, 3 months. It's not that such large number of people are going to be absorbed in villages for donkey's years for years to come. They have to come back because the jobs are in the cities. And coronavirus one day will go away. So I think if you give them assurance that your health is taken care of, your livelihood is taken care of, they will come back. And today there are digital means to give them that assurance, whether it is Arogya Setu app or whether it is, the way they are paid, etc., the way you communicate with them. So I think it's not rocket science to my mind. If you apply, Barla, with your permission, if you apply design thinking to this problem,
Yes, that's
what is the way of, let me bring that in. What is design thinking problem? To my mind, design thinking started with scientific experiments, What did you do? You defined a problem. I want to solve this particular problem. You ideated. You created a prototype. You tested. The test became partly successful, partly unsuccessful. You went back to the stage one. Why did it become unsuccessful? Redefine that particular remaining problem. Again ideate, again prototype, again test. This is how science has evolved for donkey's years. Now what is being said is, it is not only to design a component or an engineering design or a scientific experiment that you are doing, it can be applied to human related problems as well. So marketing problem, how am I going to convince my customer to buy my product better than my competition's product? Do exactly the same thing. And when it comes to human being, there is an additional stage. In scientific and engineering terms, you start with defining a problem. Here they call it empathizing. There's a step before even defining the problem. Empathizing means you put yourself in the shoes of the customer. Put yourself in the shoes of a person who's got that disease or whatever. Once you put yourself in the shoes of the customer, you understand his problem even better, because many of the customer problems are unsaid. The customer doesn't know exactly what his problem is. You have to put yourself in his shoes and analyze, and then you come to know what his real problem is. So those are the steps: empathize, define, ideate, prototype, test, go back to defining problem again, remaining part of the problem. Now you apply that to migrant labor workers, you will come to the solution. So that's what, sorry, I wanted 1 minute, but it took 3 minutes.
Yeah. Yeah, Christina, just I want to add 2 points. One.
Yes, sir. Please go ahead.
Yeah. One is Mr. Samaya is about, relationships. Will relationships remain when digital comes? How about, emotions will be there or not there? They'll be definitely be there. Just one example. You remember greeting cards. When greeting cards were dying, people were saying, no, nothing like, my own signature reaching the place, the way you feel about it and all that. All that is lost now. The same emotions we are getting through electronic means. So digitization will not kill the emotions. It will not kill the relationships. In fact, it will enhance. Today, I'm able to send greetings to much more number of people than I used to do with a greeting card. So it will definitely help. So Samaya, don't worry that digitization will kill the relationships. They'll be there. They're going to, in fact, get better and better.
Yes, thank you.
And in terms of migration labor, what Pradeep said is absolutely right. You can't build a power plant in a mill in a small village just because people are there. Power plant has to be built there where the coal is there. So paper mill has to be built where water and coal and then forests are available. So people have to migrate to that place. So, and then other thing is Britain has done their excellent thing. They have said that 80% of the wages will be borne by the government during this crisis period. What Pradeep has suggested, in fact, that suggestion has come from an Indian born finance minister there. So they have done that. so that the companies will pay the money, so the labor will remain there. Otherwise, it's very difficult. It's very huge problem actually. 7 crores of people. You can't imagine 7 crores of migration labor. You can't just create jobs in villages for 7 crores of people. Stuff. Okay, thanks.
Christine, Mr. Venkat Rahul is raising his hand.
Just a minute, sir.
Mr. Venkat Rahul, you can unmute yourself.
Please go ahead, sir.
Yeah, so I've recently been working on a ventilator project for the government of Telangana. And I would like to take a small example of design thinking here and kind of drawback to where the problems in implementing the design thinking are. So this particular ventilator has 2 electronic modules now. And we were thinking about how a field service engineer would go and upgrade the ventilator software if required. So we were thinking of providing 2 outlets there. And at the very last moment, we realized that both of these outlets look exactly the same. And I was pointing back to the design team, the hardware design team, that if these 2 look the same, there is a very distinct possibility that the softwares could be interchanged by the service engineer. So, and if that happens, then the machine will go down. When we take this feedback back to the development team, the kind of reactions that I get are, let us include this in the documentation. We can't go back, redesign everything. We're still on paper, we've still not realized the hard PCB or the modules there. Now, when it comes to design thinking, there is a slight bit of, I say caution that I would design a system with, and that kind of thinking that is required for building well-designed systems which are open for extension. I think that's a substantial challenge, bringing design thinking back into the implementation stage. So that's point number 1. Point number 2 is the design thinking is mostly translated into real terms using what are called the qualities of service. And these qualities of service could earlier were only about, let's say, again, talking from a network product kind of insight. What is the speed at which I would like this particular system to release data or take in data and stuff? You were never thinking about the end user who would be the consumer for this particular product ultimately. We were not looking at how easy or how difficult he would feel when he was using this particular product. Now, the qualities of service are also going to be including those human aspects of all these particular systems. It doesn't matter that this particular user is I mean, the education levels of this particular user don't matter much, but we still have to factor those things. Architecture, the overall system design. Third point on the migrant labor, I thought I had a question on this. The more migration that has happened in the last 10-15 years is indirect employment that will be generated by let's say the technology industry down south. So and most of this indirect employment generated has been by virtue of the impulse purchase kind of enterprises coming up, hotels, restaurants, and so on. Most of this economy most of these migrant workers have been working in those industries, and it is those workers who have gone back now, I guess. But those who have been in the longer run here, let's say like the ITC Bhadrachalam industry, I don't think they have migrated that significantly back to their hometown. I don't know if this thinking matters, but if it does, then maybe your reactions could be tailored appropriately. Done.
Thank you very much, sir. So we have a question from Mr. Bhaskaran. But I think he is not there. I'm not sure.
I know his question. His question is
Yeah.
like who will be the winners
Winners, yeah.
post-COVID?
Yes.
He posted the question to me.
Yes, yes.
Let me give a just quick one-line answer. The nobody is going to be the winner. Nobody is going to be the loser. The whole economy will settle down at a particular level. What is that level? It's very difficult to define at the moment, but there is going to be a place, appropriate place for everybody. All stakeholders will resettle at a new network and new positions, and everybody would have his or her own position. Nobody is going to be a winner. Nobody is going to be a loser. Thank you very much.
Welcome, sir.
Over to you.
Yeah. We have a message from Mr. S.V. Ramarao. He says, nice presentation, Sambasivarao Garu, on digitization and its usage. Can you all hear me?
Yeah, we can.
Yes.
Yeah, we can.
To take decisions on the spot to avoid breakdown. And then there is another question from Mr. Mohan Gadgi. It says,
Yeah. Thank you, Krishna. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, please go ahead, sir.
Yeah, I'll read out.
Let him speak.
Yeah. Thank you. First of all, thank you, D. Sambasivarao, for a wonderful session on the power plant for multiple controls for various stations, and a very good analysis for the power plant management and predictive maintenance and pumping costs, and very nice explanation about the control systems. So can you please explain something more about the cost control per unit and any data for 2018 and 19?
Yeah, thank you, sir. I shared with you in the chat.
Yeah, you can post it to him.
Yeah, I posted already, sir.
Okay,
I have done this already. So
Costing, sir, costing.
yeah, casting only I have posted to you separately. In the group
Thank you, sir.
chat itself, we can
Thank
see.
you, sir.
Yeah, because it is varying.
Okay, thank you, sir. Thank you.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. Sir, anything with some kind of a key factor you would like to explain? The costing part.
No, costing basically, we see basically the variable as well as the fixed cost. So fixed cost, of course, it is not going to vary much place to place. Variable cost, if you see, we are at Punjab and the coal is coming from the MCL, like the Mahanadi coal fields in Odisha. So the entire cost,
basically logistics,
logistics cost is
distance
almost, I say that approximately close to 3,000 rupees is the per ton is the costing railway transportation, whereas around 1,700 is the cost of basic coal. So because we are having a supercritical power plant and which consumes fairly the less coal compared to the traditional boilers. So our cost is still at 3 rupees, 320 to 340 per unit. 3 rupee 20 paise to 3
That's
rupee 40
great.
paise.
That's great.
But whereas if you see where the plants are located at Odisha, so that is less than 2 rupees because that logistic cost is nothing.
Thank you, Sambasivarao Garu.
Yeah.
And
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
There is a nice message for you from Mr. S.R. Tulsi. Thank you, Tulsi, sir.
Tulsi sir, thanks a lot, sir.
Yeah. Any more questions?
So I have a question for Sambasivarao.
Yes, please.
Any people-related issues in implementing digitalization? Has it related to some reduction in manpower? And if it is substantial, then how have people reacted to it?
Sir, actually, with respect to this, not much of reluctancy from the people. I say that a good amount of reduction only in the planning as well as the efficiency department side. Whereas, because substantial work it is done on the automation front already. So digitalization, I am talking with respect to the next level of the DCS systems.
Okay.
So analytical front, yes, we got a say that half of the reduction there.
Okay.
I'm happy to say that we yeah. Any more?
Yeah, I have one more
Yeah.
question for Dr. Bala.
Yes.
Just a counterpoint, we have seen many meltdowns of this kind. Okay, this is a lot more serious because health of people is involved, etc., etc. But if you go by the success of human race and the scientific manpower that the world has today, we're going to find vaccine to this very soon, according to me. Very soon, and maybe 6 months down the line, or it'll take 1 year. 1 year down the line, the vaccine will be available. So, do you really need to dramatically change your strategies and the way of working, etc., etc., or should we just tweak to the present circum that next 6 months I will not be able to shake hands with my customer, I will not be able to take him out for a drink. So let's tweak. Let's do something digitally or whatever is possible. But fundamental change in strategy of business, do you really need to change? Because I don't think the problem is going to live forever. I mean, the coronavirus may live forever. Scientists are already saying that. But if the death percentage comes down to 0.001%, then who cares? Business as usual.
Right.
Just
right.
your take on this. Yeah.
Yeah, may I just add a point to that? Yeah, can I speak?
Yeah, Barla, go ahead.
That's to you only, Barla Garu.
Yeah, basically it is, I'm talking about the adaptation to the changing environment. It's a marketing environment, it could be technological environment. If we look at Bhadrachalam paperboard's evolution from 70s to 80s to 90s to now, there's a tremendous amount of adaptation this company has done much faster than others. Therefore, it is number one today. Now, looking from 2020 to 2050, the adaptation is going to be much, much faster. Whether COVID or no COVID, you are in for a lot of technological revolution.
Yeah, but you answered my question.
When
you answered my question, Barla. You are saying COVID or no COVID, design thinking has to come in. You answered my question. I don't think Harinarayana started design thinking because of COVID. It was anyway on the card.
No, it was much before that.
So that's the point I'm making. The fundamental adaptation to new technology, new management techniques, new efficiency improvement techniques have to be there, COVID or no COVID. All right. I think.
But only thing is, Pradeep, the COVID has become some kind of inflection point for certain technologies to come up.
Yeah, and it's also given time for people. Time for people to think and arrive at adaptation methodology.
Yeah.
If you have taken the 25 to 35 years for X amount of change, you will have only 5 years for a similar amount of change in the next decade.
Right, correct.
Speed of adaptation is going to be much more okay. Solving the COVID problem is one thing, but I'm talking about the book written by Alvin Toffler, Future Shock. You all are aware of this book, where he says that the pace of adaptation has to be exponential, not like a straight line.
No,
Thank you very much.
Yeah, simple thing is the Kiranas are
my
going
point
to.
is he wrote the book in 60s or 70s. Okay. It's been there all along. So even now it is valid. The speed of adaptation between 60s and 80s was far higher in 80s. Between 80s and 90s was far higher in 90s. So they will continue. Anyway, let's not debate on this.
No, it's even opportunity. Like Kirana guys are going to become into e-commerce 10%, 20%. Like Barla said, it will go up. Their share of e-commerce will go up now. It
will go up in multiple. It will go up in multiple.
They will find the only way to beat these e-commerce guys is also for me to get into the platform.
And Jio is helping them.
No, I'm ordering from Sai stores and all that online now.
No, that's what I'm saying. The Jio is helping them to come online. You were ready to order even before, but now because of
the technology,
they are able to offer you that service now. I think Prakash Phatak has got a question.
I have an experience.
Yeah.
Hello.
Yes.
Please.
Yeah, Prakash.
This is
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Can I
go ahead, whoever is ready.
Yeah.
Prakash, you are on mute.
1 minute, 1 minute. He
Can I
needs to unmute. Yeah.
Yeah, Prakash Patel. Yeah.
First of all, I would like to thank the speakers and the organizers for this Silvers group. I am from a different field, but I am getting now involved and knowing more about the other aspects of the unit. So thank you very much. Secondly, I feel that any new thing like COVID has changed our way of thinking, has improved our operations in another way. So there is no guarantee that tomorrow, say in 21, there is something else will come and we will again modify our way of working and operations in shooting that way. So as we are progressing, newer and newer things will come. And what will be constant is only the change. So all it means that we have to be continuously adaptive to the changes of the environment. That's all.
So on this point, I want to say that your department will have more to do now because of safety rules.
Yeah. Actually, I have already.
For any business to continue operations, and they have to really have good safety rules. So I think your EHS department is going to play a very major role.
Hello,
Christy, Dr. P.V. Rao wants to.
There is people know about Chitra Bakarwadi. Though Chitra have already circulated their manufacturing process, how they are tackling COVID, so that the consumers are happy and they can be safely consume their items.
Yeah, Dr. P.V. Rao may have some observations. He has been the vice president of Asia's top testing laboratory. He has seen from all world top testing organizations. Dr. P.V. Rao, sir.
sir. Very good afternoon to everybody. Sir, this is Dr. P.V. Rao. I would like to just bring you to notice about a great latest experience we had in one of the wall repairing company, where Dr. Barla was director there, and I joined as a consultant. There, the company is around 18-year-old company, but there were no processes, and there was one of the audit was awaiting for the company. If it doesn't pass in the audit, the company goes to docs, and the company will not allowed to operate in overseas operations or domestic operations. So the audit has become very imminent for them, very critical for them at that particular point of time. And we don't know anything about that wall repairing and wall manufacturing company. And we studied that quality manual in 3 days, and I studied around 25 times of the quality manual. We understood and we designed our thinking process. And the manpower there is average and below average, and still we trained them in 4 or 5 days time, and we started redocumenting the files, etc. Ultimately, we achieved the when the quality audit has come, and we completed the audit with just 8 NCs. Previously, it was around 20-25 NCs earlier, around 20 years continuously. And that particular year, we completed that audit with the 8 NCs. It has all happened because of the designed thinking, what actually the employees require, what is the capacity and capability of employees, what is the productivity level of employees we designed, and we just adopted to that, and we trained the people there. And ultimately, the average guys did very well in the audit, and ultimately it has come very successfully. And I was associated with the company for around 4 months. But in that particular time, because of the design thinking, we could adopt key resulting area system, and we changed the marketing system there and quality system there. And the company is set in the right process, what they could not achieve in 16 years time. This is one of the key is satisfying moments. What has given by design thinking towards each vertical in a company. This is what I would like to share. I thought of sharing.
And the beauty of it is that the so-called below average people have taken over, and they are running the designed model right now, and they are in for next audit. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Doctor, we request you to put your video on, please. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
So any more questions? Because I was very happy that we are actually on time, but now I think.
We have one more we have one more doctor on the screen. I see Dr. Sujan Lal.
Yes, sir.
Any comment from you, sir? Are you a medicine doctor or you're a PhD doctor?
PhD, sir. I did
Okay.
my bachelor's mechanical engineering and MTech and PhD in computer science. Currently, I'm working as a principal in one of the colleges, and about 22 years I was working with oil and gas companies abroad.
Yeah. We heard you in one of our earlier sessions as well. So I
Yeah.
just wanted to know whether you have any comments.
No comments, sir. I'm really enjoying with this group,
Okay.
like seniors like you, sir.
Thank you. Okay.
Any more questions, people? Can I go ahead and request Satya to do the vote of thanks? Indeed, a very interactive session. It was very, very interesting. Satya will give us the vote of thanks, and any more comments you all can put on the chat group, please.
Madam Christina, Satya's
Yes, please.
connection is somewhat weak, so I will do the vote of thanks today.
Okay. Thank you. Thanks,
okay.
Surya, for this wonderful session.
I will I will do the vote of thanks. I sincerely thank both the speakers and Pradeep sir, Tulsi sir, and Devi sir. This is the 6th session we are doing in a row, and we have I contacted Mr. C.S. Rao Garu, who was my first reporting boss. Yesterday, he also given his consent to come to our session. Mr. C.S. Rao Garu from US, and Mr. Harinaran has given his consent to organize some project management session for us. Maybe it will be more required for younger silvers. And we have Mr. G.S. Behra, who joined recently the Silvers Group. He is working as a technical head for Mondi, South Africa. He will also have his session on new technologies in pulp and paper industry. So I hope we have 2-3 weeks covered for the sessions, and based on Pradeep sir's guidance, we will go forward and continue as long as he gives permission to us.
You don't need my permission. I think the overwhelming response by the Silvers speaks for itself. So I think this particular wing of Silvers, I call it come of age. We are no more babies, huh? We have started walking, and very soon we'll start running as well. So compliments to all of those who are contributing the organizing side as well as on the speaker side. Let's take it forward. Thank you, Christina.
Thank you, sir.
Sir, today we are completing on time, sir. Pradeep sir.
Right. Perfect.
Very good.
Thanks to the moderator.
Members today, how many participants were there today?
We have right now 31, but I think we touched 40. I think some people have left.
More than 40. More than 40.
Yeah.
I saw.
We are basically doing this average all the time. Every Sunday we are having, so it's a pleasant morning session every morning to see all the ex-BPL, the present PSPD, all. So it's very, very,
finally,
very heartwarming.
I must thank Christina Madam for accepting being host today, because I thought I should leave today, but I could not leave my house. I planned to leave in the middle of this thing, but I could not leave. Thanks, Madam, for taking the role.
Welcome. I'm sorry, here and there I made some mistakes, but please forgive me.
Thank you, Chris. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Have a good day, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you, both the speakers.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thanks, Surya Garu.
Thank you all very much.
Thank you, Surya Garu.
Thanks, Ali.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Thanks, Premlata Garu.
Thank you, Barla.
Thank you.
Christina Madam, you can leave it open.
Thank you, Barla Garu.
Thank you,
Madam,
Barla.
you can leave it open. Some old connects.
Yeah. Those who want to talk, I'm not doing anything. I'm not ending anything.
I want to talk.
Please go ahead, sir.
I feel so many new faces pardon me, because I was coming to Bhadrachalam and all the paper mills right from 1991 onwards, and exclusively I worked with the PSPD unit only from 2004 to 2009. I was a corporate EHS manager, and I must have come to Bhadrachalam or any other paper, our own PSPD mills, only during training program or carrying out safety audit or some accident investigation. And I'm happy to get connected with many of you. I'm seeing you for the first time. Maybe I don't remember you, but it is a great pleasure working with PSPD. And now, in next month, on 16 June, I will be completing 11 years my retirement. But I still feel that I am part of it. I am working with these people, and thank you very much.
So that is what ITC PSPD, ITC BPL is all about.
Yeah,
Its
Pathak sir, very nice to
its
see you in good spirit.
USP is its people. Its USP is its people. I always say that.
Pathak sir, all well there in Pune. Hari here.
I am not really. Maharashtra, we are number 2 now. We don't want to become number 1. I stay in an area which is a green zone, but like all other places, I'm not supposed to go out of the on the road. Okay. I can walk up to 500 meters within my area, because
Mumbai Indians still leading.
Yeah, wherever they will catch you, they will ask you to show your address proof, so they know whether how far away you are. And if you have crossed more than 500 meters, which I have not done. In fact, for last 2 months, since 20th of March till yesterday, I went out of my flat only 4 times. That is just to start my car and drive it for 2 kilometers within my premises.
Please stay safe, sir. Whatever it is.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Acha, Christina, I have a request. I did not ask that time. If the presentation, I mean, just like last time, the whole presentation was available on YouTube, and it was very helpful, because at a calm and quiet moment, again, we can hear that and assimilate.
It is there, sir. It'll be there. Yeah. It is. They are sending it on the group chat also, na?
Yeah. So it is wonderful. We are really become out of age, and we have become real professional.
Yeah. Yesterday, Dr. Barla and all had something on Upanishads. So this morning I was listening to it. It was so interesting. Mr. Tulsi was talking. Dr. Barla was talking. It was very interesting.
I missed that.
No. So it's on the group. So you can always listen to the audio.
Okay. Thank you. Okay. Please permit me to exit.
Yes, sir.
Have a good day. Great day.
Thank you. Hari, nice seeing you, Hari. Very nice seeing you. Yeah.
Keeping yourself engaged.
I have all this. That's what I'm saying. I'm learning much more now, because we are having the time. So yesterday I was on a secretary's
Vishy also retired yesterday.
Yeah, very interesting.
I know Vishy also retired.
Yes. We have to add
Vishy also retired, so it is.
I think tomorrow
going on
tomorrow is his last day, na? Monday.
That is true, but tomorrow being Ramzan, okay.
Yeah, but
tomorrow is so maybe DSQ is working. So tomorrow is the bird.
Krishna, just to check with Vishy whether he would like to join the Silvers group next week or something.
We'll check, sir. First, let him accept. I mean, go through
the
process of accepting retirement and wanting to come on Silvers group.
I just want to know
Dr. Barla, just give him some breathing time.
Yes.
I think you should give him some breathing time.
Pardon?
Venkat.
Taking over from Vishy.
Venki.
Venkat.
Venki, na? Yeah.
Venki, huh? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, madam.
Okay.
I am signing
charge
off.
of BCM. Hari?
Pardon, sir?
Has Mr. Mohanty taken charge of Bhadrachalam?
Yeah, Mohanty has just came
Maybe he must
So
stay in quarantine
Makaran
for 14
continues to
days.
be the unit head.
Who's in Kowai, Hari?
No, we are all.
You are talking about Makaran.
Pardon?
I'm
Pardon,
inside.
Krishna?
Who's in
You are
Kowai?
talking about
Who's the
Makaran.
head?
Yeah, Makaran is still there. Makaran is still there very much. Mohanty just came in 1 week back. Kowai, Mr. Venkatravi has gone, and Pranav went to Tribeni.
Yeah, I spoke to Trivedi. Well, Pranav.
Yeah. Pranav is doing there. I also spoke to him. There were heavy cyclones and all, last 2 days back. So.
Venkat Rahul, you're doing a big job, sir. Ventilators and all. Most important thing now.
Yes, ma'am. It was a fortunate coincidence that there is a group of WhatsApp group of entrepreneurs, Hyderabad-based hardware and software entrepreneurs. And just before this lockdown, we started seeing the necessity for ventilators, and then we got together. And the government of Telangana also jumped in and said, you can use our facility to
Excellent.
work during the lockdown period. And I think so many people were working on these ventilators all around. But
True. But luckily we are not, it's not required much, isn't it? Like abroad?
No, ma'am, that's not the case. I'll just come to that. But let me complete this Telangana government thing. The only differentiation between us and other ventilator teams that were working on this thing was the government support, I guess. And that made 90% of the difference. Today, Micromax is going to produce these ventilators at a very large scale. They have licensed the design, and we are converting that prototype, whatever we did, into a much bigger manufacturing unit, manufacturing design.
Very nice. Very nice, sir.
Yeah. And so how the government helped us? One, we were about 20 people working, and cobbling this team together itself, I think the director there, one Sujay Karampuri, he took up that entire responsibility of filling these gaps wherever they were. So we got people from the other bigger companies around, Qualcomm and Honeywell, because there were no sufficient number of embedded engineers around. And second part they did was whenever these our sensors or other things got stuck in the lockdown, they stood behind us and said, we'll give you passes that will allow the businesses to open, and we will also send, if required, the police force with you so that they can talk to the business and get this thing open. The government, I think, is aware of the fact that we have to live with COVID until the next 2 years. So they do have an expectation that this will become much bigger than the current count.
Okay. And and CS, CM of Hyderabad is doing
we have an estimate that we will cross about 1 million to 1.5 million patients in COVID, and about 1% of those count will require a ventilator. 10% of that count will require ventilators. And even if we stagger the demand for these ventilators to different points in time, it turns out that approximately 7% of the patients will be put on the ventilators, and we don't have so many ventilators active today. That is the first point. Second point is that even if we have these ventilators, they are clustered in tier 1 cities today. The tier 2 and tier 3 towns don't have as many ventilators as the demand spreads. And it is in those locations that COVID is going to spread much more far and wide because of the education about the COVID issues. And that is where I think the substantial amount of challenge is going to come up. We've not yet gone there, but yeah, you will see that trend coming up pretty soon. Look at the Chittoor district in Andhra. They are hitting this serious situation already. And yesterday I received another video from Bombay itself saying that all hospitals have exhausted their ventilator capacity. So there was a desperate cry from one patient's son that my dad needs a ventilator and there is nothing available. So ultimately the patient passed away. That's a different aspect. But even in tier 1 cities, we have a shortfall in demand. And the ask is not for the industrially perfect ventilator that can deliver without any leakages at the moment, but it is for something that works even for 6 months to 1 year.
Okay.
We're not asking for a device that works for 15-20 years. And that too should come at a low price. About ₹1 lakh is what I think most hospitals are going to be able to afford.
Great job, sir. Great job in these trying times. So nice hearing all of you. Can I now switch off Satya Garu, Surya Garu?
Yes, madam, you can do that. Thank you
Okay.
very much.
Okay. Bye,
Thank you for
Hari.
helping-
Thanks.
helping me
Wonderful
out.
meeting, ma'am. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Bye, everybody. Bye.
Bye. Bye. Bye.
Madam, please share the video. Huh?
ఎట్లా చెప్పు ఇప్పుడు
You once call me on WhatsApp, because once you close this, then
No,
it will prompt
I'm not
you-
closing.
No. Once you close
I'm calling you.
Once you close this, it will prompt you for a message to convert.
Okay. Abba, Surya. I hope I'm able to do it. I'm talking.
Hello.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can close the Zoom meeting.
Close the Zoom.
Yeah.
Say end over here. There's an end. Surya.
End or yes.
Something end is coming. Okay, end meeting for all.
Yes.
Okay.